Hey, welcome everyone to this week's Fast Track Live show. We got a really good session. If you've been working on an abstract or wrestling with your title, you're not going to want to miss this because Courtney in the studio here with me and I are going to share our best tips to help you create memorable abstracts, memorable titles that not only get you clarity and direction, good support from your supervisors, but also help you get accepted to conferences, get your paper sent out for review. With that, we're going to dive straight in because we got a short session today. I'm going to head straight over to Courtney for this week's quick tip.
Yeah, so my top tip this week is actually very simple, but also very important. It's to back up your work as you move along. So I've had an issue recently with my own work, which is typically backed up to a cloud. And I know, David, we had an issue with a student that also hadn't backed up their work and also was set back for that. So if you're backing up to the cloud, make sure that that cloud is always catching the most latest version of your work. And if you're not, consider using a cloud service as a second backup to saving on your hard drive.
Yeah, I personally use Google Drive. That works well. It automatically syncs. Dropbox is good. I mean, it always seems to happen to students who are back up against the wall in a panic right before submission. I don't know if these things are running hot and then something is gonna like burn out or go pear shaped. But yeah, it often ends in tears. So don't let that happen to you. Really great tip, Courtney. Glad you mentioned it. Okay, we're gonna jump straight in, like I said, and what I'm excited about here is we got two really good submissions. I think you're gonna get a lot of value out of yourself if you struggled with these areas. And the first, I think, Courtney, let's go through the title question. So I'm just gonna read out the question. I'm encouraging you, those of you in the future, to send us videos of yourself with your questions and topics so that we can play it back, so that everybody else can fully understand what you're wanting to know. But I'm just gonna share here very quickly. Here we've got, this is from Saeed. And Saeed says, okay, it has a question. My main question is related to the title. I'm going to zoom in so you can see. And I know, Courtney, we got some background noise from you in the cafe, but that's okay because we're both out of the office. So, okay. So the field of research is education. And the title, I'm just going to blast this out so we can see it, is Studying the Effects of Adopting the Blended and Cooperative Learning Teaching Process on Enhancing EFL Students' Soft Skills and Academic Achievements. Got to breathe after that. Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack here just in a title. And so much I can diagnose from a title that often, if your title is unclear or not on point, is often a sign that there's a deeper problem with the underlying research that you're going to do. So in some ways, a title is not just a title. So yeah, the other thing I want to point out, if you run out of breath trying to read your title, it's also a sign that something's just a bit off. Courtney, your immediate reactions here on the title, and then the Saeed's also shared some comments from the supervisor. We're going to come to that in a second. But Courtney, your thoughts on this first.
Yeah, my thoughts are that, like you said, it's very, very long. I would also suggest shortening it. It also seems a little bit jargony, in the way that we talked about how to like broaden out a research idea from like a very specific context to a hotter debate. I would like to see that done with this title a little bit. So to take a little bit of the jargon out and pull out the broader question that you're investigating, that might appeal to a more wider audience, not just someone who's very aligned with your area of work.
Yeah, you kind of have to know what's going on to understand. You have to be in the field to get this, and some of it's just exactly, I would say, jargony. You're talking about the EFL. You've got to spell that out, at least in the title. But some of it's vague. There isn't a clear question. It's not coming into contact with that big gap. Studying the effects of, and it gets hard to see the effects of this on what, because some of these things are vague, like academic achievements. That's a very vague outcome. And teaching approaches could be anything. So this doesn't really say anything. So I'm already going to do a little bit of surgery here as I'm looking at this. And I want to remind you guys, remember our framework that we often use. Doctors love this, and they like it because doctors like clarity and direction. Doctors have to get the research right because people's lives are on the line. So it just, doing humanities is one thing, but getting this research right is really, like, can be, no exaggeration, life or death. So I like using these PICO models, even if your field is not medicine. And I like to know what the population you're studying is. That's the P in our model. what the intervention or exposure or area of interest is. That's the I. Comparison group, that can be there, and I think that's actually there here, and what the outcome is. And I think one of the challenges in this title is it's not really doing a good job satisfying that PICO model at all. So the population is, it looks like it's EFL students. So I think this is English as a foreign language students. I'm not sure because it wasn't spelled out, but I'm going to clarify that. So that could satisfy this. So we're just going to call this EFL students. I'd like to know what level they're at. To be clear, are these secondary school, right? Are they, where are they? So that's, if I'm understanding that correctly. And then the intervention here appears to be the effects of adopting the blended and cooperative learning, I think. So I think the main one is maybe, I'm not really sure what the intervention is. I'm not sure what the baseline is. So I think in this case, you're maybe comparing, say, to traditional teaching, and your intervention, is it this the same name for the same thing? Blended, is this blended as a mix of online learning or in person? I'm not really sure. So I'm going to put a question mark by that, but that needs to be clear. And the outcome's not clear either. Courtney, are you seeing some things that maybe I'm not seeing on this?
Yeah, I think you're right, like soft skills, academic achievements.
Why do we care? And I'm confused. If it is English as foreign language, why do I care about teaching them soft skills? Aren't we just trying to teach them English?
Yeah, the relationship between that and academic achievements. Also,
yeah. So this is really unclear on enhancing their soft skills. So I would pick one main outcome here. Maybe, is it language acquisition? You want to see how well they're picking up language? It's not obvious. So this outcome needs to be fixed. So I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to delete some of the unnecessary words. And the effects of I want to turn this into a question to make it less vague. So maybe we could say instead, let's turn it into a question, because what I like to do is you take your PICO sentence and you turn PICO into a linking sentence. So let's just make up an outcome at this point. Courtney, how about we just say grades? Grades could count. So does adopting blended learning improve the grades of English as a foreign language EFL students? Okay. At least now, Saeed, we may have kind of diverged from what you're doing, but we have now in this shorter sentence all the elements of the PICO, and we have a research question built in, and we've made it in a way that anybody, even anybody outside your field, can probably understand. Although blended learning still might be a bit jargony and unclear to some people outside the field. Courtney, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I was thinking like a term that more people might be familiar with is like e-learning or something.
Yeah, e-learning is good. E-learning methods, improve grades, or engagement. There's different outcomes you could think of here, and you don't have to just do grades, but you want to be clear about what those outcomes are that you're looking at. So with that, I want to go look at the comments that are coming from the professors, and I also want to say, if you guys, those of you watching, if you have any questions of your own, or Saeed, if you're watching, definitely jump in and let us know if we've missed anything here. But let's look at their professors' comments and see what they came up with. So I've been told by my supervisors and colleagues, the title is too long. It contains many keywords that should be limited to 3 to 4 maximum. Yep, 100%. And I agree with that. I think we've covered that now, Courtney. Focus only on studying one approach, either blended or cooperative one, rather than both. That's exactly what we were saying here as well. Soft skills is too vague and should be limited to some 3 or 4 clear items. So Saeed, yeah, I mean, I 100%. Courtney, do you agree with these comments? I think this is exactly what we've just kind of doctored up here a bit. This all seems really valid.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, the student, he said he felt lost after the remarks, and I think there is a lesson here, which is like, take what's useful and because I know, Sahid, if you're on the call or if you were here and could talk to us, you could tell us in 30 seconds probably all of these questions that we had. Like, is it grades? Is it so? You are you know your research better than anyone. I would try not to feel too overwhelmed by comments like this. Um, just take them one by one and sort of break it down the way that David and I are.
That's a really great point, Courtney, because I think sometimes, you're putting yourself out there with your research and then your professors come back with these comments, you feel like, knife to the heart. And it's just kind of gut. It just it feels like you just got ripped in half. But I found these really helpful comments. I mean, yeah, you're right. So he said on a comment continue, how are you going to assess the effects of these approaches? Academic achievements are hard to quantify 100%. As an outcome, that's very hard to follow. And then Saeed says, I felt lost after the remarks. And what am I supposed to do? How do I tweak my research? So, yeah. So these are things I really encourage you guys. Look, we use these tools in Fast Track for a reason, because they help our students get clarity and direction and have structure. And that structure is important because even when you get these comments from your professor, they're actually following a structure. Those professors may not have made clear that there's this structure behind the scenes playing out, but that structure is making sure you've got these elements made clear. So we kind of take it apart one by one, piece it together to make sure you got the necessary ingredients. And thanks for sharing this, Saeed. Let us know in the comments if you're watching later, if this is helpful, how you get on, and let us know what title you actually come up with. A lot of people who are going to watch this video later are going to be really interested in how you do. Any last thoughts on this, Courtney, before we move on to the abstract?
No, I think this is a good stopping point for that.
Cool. Okay, so I'm going to move over to the abstract, and I think I've got this on the same Word document. Right, so here we go. We've got from Natasha. Thank you, Natasha, for sharing this with us. So you've got an abstract that you want to submit to a conference. And main questions are, I'm going to break these up so a little bit easier to read and just increase the font. These are good questions. You want to know if you've got all the elements you need to have. You need to include preferences, keywords. Is it readable? Is the research question clear? And should be more detailed. Good questions. We're going to look at all those things. And doubts are, you might have to mute for a second, Courtney, because I know you're in a cafe. The research has not been yet completed. Okay. That's 100% okay. I'll tell you a little secret that I shouldn't say. There have been times that I had very preliminary results that were very preliminary, and I just dropped them into an abstract and made it look as if those were the results, but with some framing to say that this is to be confirmed by our subsequent models, just to give enough of an appetizer, because I knew by the time I got to the conference, the research would be completed. So that is okay. This is a conference abstract. It's intentionally meant for you to go out to the field and get feedback. So that's okay. You don't have to have your research completed as yet. That said, I do encourage students to think of conferences as marketing for themselves, making connections, contacts in the field. So I do like, if you can choose some research, I'd like to choose you to submit research that's already towards the completed end of the spectrum. But if not, it's totally okay. And people understand that in theory is the purpose of the conference. And your research is limited only to Slovenian cases. Yeah, I think there's unfortunately this bias on, if it's Slovenian, it's not going to be as widely relevant. So I think I agree with you, just strategically not to emphasize it too much. So we're going to take a look at this. And this is a little bit delicate. We'll look at the way you phrase this about your research not yet being completed. And we'll take a look at these elements. Yeah, Courtney, put you back in here. Do you have any? These are good questions. Really glad you're asking these, Natasha. Courtney, you have any thoughts on this too from your experience? Because I know you've written a ton of abstracts.
Yeah, I do the same as you said. So I often apply for conferences that are a year away. So I'll put in a statement like preliminary results suggest ABC. I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in a year's time, nobody's going to, I mean, it's natural that the research would evolve. So that's totally okay. All right, let's pull up this abstract. I'm excited to look at this. And we're intentionally looking at this for the first time with you guys. Okay, impact. I'm going to bold this so we can kind of break it up. Impact of social networks on the use of phraseology. Okay, this is good. I actually have to admit, it's a great pleasure to work with so many interdisciplinary students. I don't actually know what phraseology is. I can guess. I mean, I guess in linguistics, how things are yeah, maybe dialects used or cultural choices of phrases, I guess. I'm not sure, but hopefully this is going to be all explained here and find out. But I like this title. This has the Pico elements, and it's a clear title. So far so good. I might like something a colon here where you can maybe explain what method you used or what source of evidence you brought together to bear on this question. So just keeping that in mind, not strictly necessary, but I would like that. Okay, let's read through it very briefly, Courtney. If you read through it, I'll try to increase the font size here a little bit so easier to read. And I'm just going to look at it very quickly, Courtney, while you're probably doing the same. And it's helpful, just as I'm looking at this, to know how many words you've got. Okay. Good. Okay, glad we've taken a good minute and a half or two to judge this. Okay, just by way of background, you have two kinds of abstracts out there called structured and unstructured. This is going in an unstructured abstract, which is more in the humanities style, where everything's just lumped together in kind of a big paragraph or text. A structured abstract is used more in the natural sciences. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to take this into a structured abstract for a second and convert it back into an unstructured abstract. And it's kind of like what we just did with the title, where we broke the title into the Pico components and then put it back together. We're going to do the same thing here and make sure we've got the background, the method, the result, and the conclusion. And that's usually the way a structured abstract is made. So it forces you to have all those elements together. And so we're going to break it apart and put it back together. So I'm just going to come here and track changes and go here. While I'm doing this, Courtney, do you have any kind of background, like overview remarks or thoughts here?
Yeah, some background thoughts. I'm missing from the background sort of an idea of the significance of the research area. Why is this research area important? The aim also is coming at the very end of the abstract, which normally we'd like to see up front, maybe the third or fourth sentence at least. And then I'm a little confused about what specific method is being. I know where some of the data is coming from, but how is it specifically being evaluated?
Yeah, exactly. I think that kind of the order, I like the ordering to be presented in as linear a way as possible. So let's go through each of that. Each of those are really good points, Courtney. So, and I think we can bring this down. It would be nice to know the overall word count to know what we're playing with. I think it's maybe a 250 word abstract. So let's just stick with that. I'm going to guess that and go here. So one principle in writing is to cut unnecessary words and vague words. To be more concrete, specific, and definite. We have this in some of our writing training, the elements, which if you haven't seen already, 100% free in our Facebook group. Send me a direct message, get in touch, and we'll link you up with it. It's really helped a lot of our students, especially if they've never had any academic writing before. So in the digital age, that's fine. This is a little bit vague. Phraseological units. I would say frequently used appear we could just say appear prominently on social networks. Often appear using prominently.
Particularly in tweets.
Exactly, particularly on Twitter and in tweets, something like that. So we can say what platform. So I'm guessing. I'm thinking this is kind of foreshadowing. Well, maybe you're going to look at Twitter, but then you say something about newspapers, magazines, and fiction. So we just kind of want to suture this up so it's a little bit tighter together. The characteristics of the use. So their verifications, modifications have not been systematically evaluated. So I don't know what the research question is. So you're saying although their appearance on social networks is more noticeable. I think it would be helpful to take phraseological units and just clarify what's meant by that. I just kind of want to look for myself now. Hang on, let me just pull up something. Let me see if we can pull up a browser here in Chrome. Give me 2 seconds, guys. You're going to see the insides of our studio here. I want to know what phraseological units are. Umbrella term: multi-word units of language. Multi-word units of language. Whose meaning is not compositional. This might be obvious in your field. phraseological units or multi-word, non-compositional phrases appear common, particularly on Twitter. I don't think we need to say tweets necessarily. And then say yet it is their linguistic, because as your characteristics, linguistic characteristics, variations and modifications. What do you mean modifications? Is this from regular language? You know, have not are not well understood. So I'm having a little bit of trouble understanding the main point here. Above all, the function of emphasizing. Okay. Although they appear to emphasize emphasize socio-political and culturally relevant messages. So I'm still struggling a little bit to see. So in the background, your background needs to say, kind of answer, why are we having this conversation now? What is the burning question? So you're saying that this types of phrasing really appears on social network media, but we don't understand, I guess, linguistic characteristics, but they appear to be being called upon to promulgate or propagate socio-political and cultural messages. I think. But so Natasha, you got to check this. I'm not sure. What you especially need for this background, I'm just going to put a comment here, is we need to explain very rapidly what's the gap. Guys, if you don't know what the gap is in your research that you're trying to fill, you don't have any business writing an abstract yet, or even going on to do the research. So I think you have a good answer to that. We work closely with our students to make sure they have crystal clear clarity on their gap, and it really helps all this writing down the road become easier. Courtney, any thoughts on the background before we chop apart to the next section?
No, I'm just really curious about what's the importance of these units? Like, what do they do for society or for research, perhaps?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. I'm curious what's going on here. So it sounds like it's exploratory, which is totally okay. But we just want to understand, why are these so important to study? Have they not been studied before? What's the value added that you're bringing here? So here we go. In the corpus analysis, so you're just jumping straight into in this corpus analysis, and we need to clarify that. We can see below you say with the genus corpus. So it's we evaluated the genes corpus covering circa 200 million words, and I guess it covers phrases as well, because you're doing phraseology from tweets, forum posts, news, comments. Are these all on social media, or is this also written media? Because are you comparing social media to conventional media? This is a little bit unclear. Use Wikipedia, blogs, and blog comments. It's a little strange because you're kind of foreshadowing here. Why are you singling out Twitter? So I don't really understand, because now you're going and looking at wider social media. So I'm just shifting this around. And then it looks like you coded this, and we then coded linguistic parameters, including the type of social network and its specifics. Something's missing here. The type of, so we can just say this instead of type, it'll carry over type of social network, phraseological unit, and frequency of use. As well as the function. So this is a little unclear how you did this, but that's okay. What do you think here, Courtney?
Yeah, I think all your edits are spot on, and there's still, we need to know from Natasha some more information about what she did. But just to go back to that point you made about sort of talking about Twitter earlier on in the background, and then we get to the methods and we see that, there's other sources that are also being evaluated. I think there's a broader tip here, which is just to, I can see a student writing this from starting with the background and knowing that this is particularly important to Twitter. So that's why the student might have put that. But their evaluation is focusing on other things. So the idea here is that when you're writing something like a conference abstract, sometimes you have to hold back your knowledge a little bit. Just like it might make sense that, this is particularly important for Twitter, but your work isn't focused on Twitter. So just leave out that bit then from the beginning.
Exactly. Social networks, maybe social network media. But I think, why don't we just say digital social media, I think. And get rid of Twitter here, because you're not really going down that path. And I think this is streamlined a little bit. So you can see now, if we put these back together, we can actually get rid of this background, I'll get rid of this methods, and it actually reads directly, and we can go like this. And it just flows back into an unstructured abstract. Okay, results. Here we've got nothing. So I would already say our preliminary observations or like our preliminary findings reveal that something here of, well, what's the payoff to this? What are you going to show us? And then your conclusions, I realize it's premature, but I would then say that this aim, I would just rephrase this to say these findings will help elucidate, and I'm using a bigger word than has to be, or let's use a simpler word. It will help
Maybe uncover.
Yeah, exactly. Uncover some underlying mechanisms which activate the use of. So part of your question is, what is motivating? Why are people using these phraseological units? So I think that's a question, or not well understood. So we sought to evaluate the why people use alternative phraseological units by evaluating. So we kind of bring this in closer contact. So these will uncover some, let's just say, some reasons why people use phraseological units of social media, and redefine some phraseological. Ooh. I don't understand why you want to redefine these features. Are you creating it? So this gets a little bit field specific. I don't really know if I follow this. Courtney, do you follow this here?
I think by evaluating the social media, these more traditional phraseological features their definitions are broadened by.
Will also help extend phraseological theory to capture, its main to adapt its major features such as stability, reproducibility, and expressiveness to use in the digital era. Something like this. I think maybe, Natasha, is what's going on here. So I think if you can flesh this out, this looks pretty good to me. This now flows. I think that's it. I think that's there. So you can phrase this as a tentative conclusion of, why are these results important? Why should somebody care? Why are they going to want to have your abstract, have you do a presentation? And I wouldn't be a little bit shy about being bold and saying that this is going to be really, why is this really important? I mean, you're obviously investing so much time and energy because you believe it's important. Make that known and 100% clear to people reading this, so they know why they want to come listen to you. Yeah, I think this is good, Natasha. My read of this is you have the relevant elements in here. Just maybe you've gotten a little bit close to it, and it's helpful to kind of step back and see the big picture. So my main suggestion of you, just recapping, clarify this gap, clarify your main research question, which I think is this in here now. And I think we've streamlined the methods a little bit here. And make sure that we haven't written anything that's incorrect. We changed it because we didn't understand it. And then put in your preliminary findings. And it's okay if they're fully preliminary and weak. And that's okay. You're saying they're preliminary. And make sure we haven't completely messed up this part. But you want to say something about what does this mean? What are the implications? Courtney, any last thoughts on the abstract here?
Yeah, I would just say that when you're filling out those preliminary results, just stay away from jargon there too. So we sort of fine-tuned a little bit to make it less jargony, and just make sure you also do that when you're filling in that results section.
Yeah, exactly. It's just going to broaden your audience. So if you can get away from jargon, you might not always be able to, but if you can, we always recommend it. And now I can have something maybe here after the semicolon to what you're doing. It still seems to me you're not really looking at now the impact of social networks per se. And so that's a little unclear. It's not clear to me how, well, I guess so. Why? So there's a little bit of lack of clarity in here. Are you like the impact of social network on the choice of phraseology? It's not here how you coded the social network from these tweets and sought to see how that network impacted on the phraseological unit. So maybe explain that a little bit more. How this is kind of like, this is your independent variable, this is your dependent variable. It's a little unclear how with this corpus data that those two are being connected or related to each other.
Yeah, if it's
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Courtney, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if you're sort of doing, if it's more exploratory and you're just kind of scoping out what's going on, you could even shorten it, I think, to just social networks and phraseology evaluating the Jane's corpus or something like that.
Yeah, if it
might
is
work for a
exploratory.
conference.
So yeah, that can work pretty well in the humanities. That very simply goes well, evaluating the Jane's corpus. And in looking at this, there still might be some later on some need to justify why you're looking at Slovenian. I could go either way for putting that in the title. I think on balance, I might leave it out. But that's kind of a strategic decision. It's more accurate to leave it in. But strategically, I might leave it buried in here. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing the screen and come back. I think, guys, this is a great stopping point for today. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. We got a couple comments on here that I want to take. People saying, yeah, that was really impressive. Thank you both. Okay, great to hear. Awesome. Glad you guys are getting value out of this. I always learn a lot. I love seeing these really fascinating topics. I mean, I learned something new today, phraseological units. I got to find out more about that. That's pretty cool. Be interested to see how maybe people talk about cancer or other choice of phraseological units on social media about certain kinds of events. Would be pretty interesting. So yeah, so come back, let us know what you came up with. And Natasha, just let us know how you doing your abstract. Again, it really inspires the community when you share that with us. So